If you click on Kiev, you can bomb Russians. What? Why is the drone going into Poland? Wait, what? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Now click on a Russian unit. What is this planet? Can you imagine that was a real drone attack?
But yes.
Dude, who knows? In 100 years, maybe there's like a website where you have to pay money and then you can fly a drone in a real war zone and you're like, whoa, I'm gonna kill a real human being. That, you know.
It's been nearly 4 years since the start of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Nearly 4 years since the time that NATO realized that a continental war in Europe was still a possibility in the modern day. Ever since, NATO leaders have been warning their people that this day could come, that Russia might finally choose to issue a direct challenge to the alliance and find out, once and for all, whether it would stand united.
Russian UN representative smiles during report on killing Ukrainian children.
Can no longer be changed. Russia will never be able to alter its authorship from the atrocities committed in Ukraine.
Like a Bond villain, man.
It
If
seems
nukes weren't a thing, Russia will be a joke.
Like that day.
Evil wins when good looks away. The #1 quote I've ever heard in my life.
Russian drones are swarming Polish airspace. Russian fighter jets thunder over the Baltics, and unexplained acts of sabotage, infiltration, and cyber attack have rocked the European continent at higher rates than ever. But across the entire NATO alliance, there is one nation where Russia will set its sights first.
It's not Finland. Not Finland. I guess Estonia, Latvia, or to try to connect with Kaliningrad, so maybe Lithuania?
That nation is Estonia,
Estonia.
a highly developed, highly cosmopolitan society with
Very,
no
very
ability
crazy country. A friend of mine was in Estonia, and he said it's the best internet he'd ever seen in
and
his
no
life.
desire to ever pose a threat to Russian sovereignty. But of course, that doesn't matter to the Kremlin, does it? Because Estonia is a member of NATO, and if Russia is going to prove that NATO's major European powers will abandon their own allies when Russia comes to collect, then that test will have to come at a NATO nation's expense. Right now, Estonia is in the crosshairs. What we're going to discuss today is one in a series of possible escalations against the NATO alliance that Russia may be considering.
Like, imagine, I'm just yapping a bit. Ukraine got attacked and they found this fighting spirit of fighting their ass off. Imagine you do something like that to like a Finland, man. With Finland's history and stuff, Finland, and don't they have like 1 million reserve? Dude, Finland world. And it's just yapping. I don't know anything, right? I never know. But you would think something like Finland would go fucking ham, dude. If Finland supported by NATO air, and it shows I was a bit anti-militaristic in my 20s, but I was wrong. If you have a country like Finland where they all serve, I think for 1 year, right? It's a good deterrence. It's a good deterrence.
As we explore why that is, we'll start with the same principle that would make any patch of land more valuable. Location, location, location. Estonia is part of the small region of Europe known as the Baltics, 3 sovereign states nestled on the shores of the Baltic Sea. Alongside Estonia in the north, the Baltics include Latvia in the middle and Lithuania in the south. Travel to the western shores of these 3 countries, and the Baltic Sea touches nations like Sweden, Finland.
Why did they decide after World War II that Kaliningrad should be Russian? Who decided that? Wouldn't the Allies be like, bro, no, you're not, this is Polish, you're not getting Kaliningrad?
Poland and Germany.
Why would they decide
it then
that?
wraps around Denmark and Norway and opens up into the Atlantic Ocean. But travel in the opposite
No one wanted
direction
it.
towards the eastern edge of
Because
the
there
Baltics.
was ethnic Russians living there. Ah.
In Estonia's case, you find the Russian border. But look a bit closer at the map, and it quickly becomes clear that from Estonia's perspective, Russia is all around. Estonia's northern edge is a seashore looking out at the Gulf of Finland, a small body of water that stretches to the
Imagine World War III, how much naval warfare there would be here. I would think Russia will get locked out very quickly, right?
to all sorts of Russian military bases that would seem to be able to assert quick control over the Gulf. To the
Funny enough, this is kind of what Broken Arrow is about, right? This kind of war
east,
here.
Russia makes up Estonia's entire border. To the southeast, past Latvia and its own
It always
Russian
crashes,
border, is the
Habibi.
Russia-friendly
Them don't always
nation
crash.
Bannerlord. On the Baltic coast lies the Russian exclave territory of Kaliningrad. Between the
Quick question. This is like man-made, right? This is made by humans, right? That's actually organic.
territory of NATO member Lithuania touches the territory of NATO member Poland through only a narrow stretch of territory, a roughly 65-kilometer or 40-mile line that is
they would like
the
to get that.
only land
Generally Broken Arrow, right?
bridge between the Baltics
You won't think NATO is very ready in this region.
and the rest of NATO. Worse yet, Estonia isn't just encircled, it's positive.
I would almost even HOI4 style, let them get in. Take the Kaliningrad port, let them come in a bit and circle them. Russians are easy in circle.
Dwarfed by its Russian neighbor. To illustrate the size of the gap, we'll focus on a key metrics. Estonia has a population of slightly under 1.4 million people, while Russia has over 100 times as many, 146 million. Estonia's total GDP in
I saw a short today where they look at a Russian military rate and then the US one from Trump. And it makes no sense to me. Sometimes I think I'm the only intelligent human being on Earth. Did you see the US military parade? And the Marines just walk like they don't even walk in unison. I'm like, what? Like, Trump is making this massive parade and they can't even walk correctly? I was in the army 9 months and the number one thing they train you is marching. In the German army, man, it was all about marching. It was the number one thing important. Nothing else matters.
25 was the equivalent of 45
Some say it was a
billion
protest?
US
No,
dollars.
that I would actually understand.
was over 46 times larger at a bit over $2 trillion.
And the number one thing they cared about, that we all look clean. The marching is clean, everybody stands clean, they didn't care about anything else. I don't think that's my unit. It could be. No. That's TommyKay? Wait. I'm here because of Tommy. Look at this march, please. There's no way that's real. Nah, that's not real. I don't believe it. I don't buy it. No. That's a comedy skit or something.
Stretches across 45,000 square kilometers, while Russia spans over 17 million. That's about 300.
Why green cappy? No, the beret is different. Green is hunters. Blue is medic. Red is, I don't know what the fuck. I was black, which is tanks.
And while many NATO member nations boast a fairly impressive military even by themselves, Estonia is
Red
one
is
of those
airborne,
countries
yeah.
that
Red is
really
air.
needs to be a part of the NATO alliance. As of 2025, the entire Estonian military was made up of fewer than 8,000 active duty troops, backed up by a force of reserve troops that
Were
stand
you in a
in
Tiger
permanent
tank
or
commander?
rapid
Yes, I was a
response
King
readiness,
Tiger commander,
numbering
yes.
a bit under 39,000. Estonia's home to
I really like the army in a way. If I didn't like it, okay? My problem with the army was it's the dumbest shit ever. No one had any IQ. It was just the biggest brain drain. I always felt an army should be intelligent. Intelligent human beings of decentralized decision making. My experience in the army was just the dumbest idiots. Super fucking
230,000.
the dumbest people I've ever met.
Reservists in total.
Everyone
by its
says
own
that.
official numbers, but only around a third of those reservists have actually had any military training. On land, Estonia boasts a grand total of 0 main battle tanks, 44 infantry fighting vehicles, less than
Then why are they even alone? There should be NATO battalions in there.
60 combined French and South
Italian people that go into the army. But when it gets serious and you're fighting for survival, it's intelligent people you want around you. People that have, we see this in documentaries where the Ukrainian fighters talk about this. You want intelligent people with intelligent decision making.
howitzers and American
That's the people you want
HIMARS
around you,
multiple
man, when it
rocket
shits
launchers
the
and
fan.
practically no air defense systems to speak of, except anti-aircraft cannons and shoulder-fired missiles. In the air, Estonia claims precisely 0 armed combat aircraft and all of 2 trainer aircraft that could conceivably be
How's there no
retrofitted
NATO
to
troops
carry
there, man,
weapons.
right? Is it so hard to just put divisions there and they just hang out there and
On
stuff?
the water, Estonia sails 3 minesweepers,
show
3 small
force to
patrol
Russia?
boats, and a pollution control ship.
There are permanent NATO deployments in the Baltics. You know what? Fuck all of you right now. I'm doing this. How much of NATO is currently stationed inside the Baltics? I'm asking my best friend, bro. The forces in question are mostly part of NATO enhanced forward presence, battle groups, brigades in the Baltic states. Many of these troops are rotational. They deploy for a period, like 6 months, and then leave again. For some new commitments, they're being shifted towards more permanent or semi-permanent deployments, like the German brigade in Lithuania. Yeah, that's a beautiful sign of friendship. 100%. Here's the numbers. Lithuania, NATO has only 1.6k. Hey, we're a joke. If I was Putin, I will do the same. If I was Putin, I will do exactly this. NATO just cannot fucking flex some muscles. We just can't do it. In Estonia, 1.2k. Latvia, 3.5k. And this is actually clearly why they will invade.
Hello there.
I mean, I
It's
wouldn't
probably
even
not-
blame Russia. You should invade that. There's no one there. But then again, you should never underestimate people. Even if you take Estonia, they will do guerrilla warfare, I think. I think people are very proud. Lithuanians, Estonians, they're proud people.
Then there's the rhetorical side of things, where, although the nations of Europe would disagree that Russia has any reason to invade anybody, Estonia offers Moscow some very convenient opportunities to build a narrative around the idea of a rightful conquest. Similar to what Russia did in Ukraine before and during its full-scale invasion, Russia can emphasize Estonia's relatively large population of ethnic Russians, estimated to comprise about 286,000 people at the time of
Oh wow, that's a lot. It's like when Hitler tried to get all the Germans back.
writing, or around 21% of the entire Estonian population. Similar to the ethnic Russian population of Ukraine's Donbass region,
Estonia has a whole volunteer army on guerrilla warfare. What?
ethnic Russians are relatively
NATO forgot to garrison Estonia.
geographically concentrated, particularly in and around the city of Narva on the Russian border and on or around the shores of Estonia's largest body of water, Lake Peipus, also split by the Russian border. Many of those ethnic Russians are not Estonian citizens. After the fall of the Soviet Union, Estonia only recognized those who were descended from families who had lived there before Soviet occupation. In order to become naturalized citizens, ethnic Russians have to pass a language test that
It looks like if you study warfare in reality with Ukraine-Russia, the first days is chaos, but then you will start determining front lines, and then it's just frontline warfare.
has long criticized for being too difficult and swear loyalty
The
to
first
Estonia,
days matter a lot to
despite the
find
fact that those
some
ethnic
ground and
Russians are
damage.
also citizens of the Russian.
Dude, as a nerd, I'm a big fan of Delta Force. I really read a lot about Delta Force lately. I investigated them a bit.
Only about
They will
5 to
wreak a lot of
7%
havoc, man.
of Estonian residents
One thing is clear, I'm gonna suck American dick. I don't want to fight no Americans, bro. I don't want to fight these motherfuckers, bro.
aren't citizens.
What's Delta Force? Dude, you need to read up on Delta Force. In my research, what I found, they're the best special unit in the world.
Russia has continued to express its outrage toward Estonia over that situation. Worse yet, ethnic Russians in Estonia live mostly at the low end of the socioeconomic ladder.
Chuck Norris was a Delta Force team leader. I think you're memeing, right? I've been reading about this a bit and watching YouTube videos privately. I'm interested. The Navy SEALs are just very big in the media. They have like these big books, David Goggins. The Navy SEALs are a big presence on social media. But a lot of them are just like these brute force grinders without a lot of brain. Whereas Delta Force, what Delta Force does is, I know a bit about this shit. When you go to the Delta Force trials, they only take 1 or 2 people per session, which is 6 months. So they take like maybe 5 people per year. And what they test, David Goggins talked about this in his book, when they test you, they don't look for the craziest grinder and monster. They look for highly intelligent people with high IQ, people that use their brain a lot. They don't want these Rambo types. They want like normal dudes with big brains, man. And that's what makes Delta Force scary,
Greatly
man.
overrepresented in Estonia's populations of prisoners, injecting drug users, and homeless,
TommyKay
among
subs?
other
Exactly.
systemic issues. Taken together, that situation represents a golden
Stay hard.
opportunity to present the same sorts of narratives that Russia presented in Ukraine: ostracization, targeting, ethnic assimilation, and even genocide against the Russian-speaking population. And in a much broader sense, Estonia represents a bit of a sore spot for Russian nationalists. Estonia used to be a socialist republic under the Soviet Union, making it a place that leaders like Putin believe that they can lay claim to, but Estonians have chosen to go in the opposite direction. They've joined the European Union, they've joined NATO, and they've rejected what many Russians would call their rightful
Yeah, no, they're a super advanced country, man.
place in Moscow's sphere of influence. Modern Estonia has become everything that modern Russia is not, and it's achieved everything that modern Russia never could after the fall of the
I wouldn't want to fight Delta Force,
Soviet
man.
Union.
Fuck
It's
that.
got an advanced high-tech economy. It's one of the least corrupt places on Earth. Individual incomes are high, and press freedoms, human development, and quality of education are among the best of any global nation. Estonia even left religion behind, with over 70% of the people being either non-religious
Dude, Estonia is kind of a perfect country if you think about it. They're so advanced.
actually unaffiliated to any organized religious body at a time when Russian orthodoxy is of paramount importance to Russian nationalists. Ever since Vladimir Putin consolidated his power in Moscow, Estonia has been among his primary targets. Even before the annexation of Crimea in 2014 had become a clear objective for his government. Although back in 2007, Russian-backed hackers launched a massive cyber attack against Estonia to punish the removal of a Soviet war monument from the Estonian capital city of Tallinn. This attack hammered Estonia for 3 weeks straight.
Wow.
Starting in 2014, Estonia began to
These hackers are no joke, huh?
regular airspace violations, and in that same year, Russia abducted an Estonian security officer at gunpoint before trying and convicting him for espionage on Russian soil. In 2022, Russian hackers launched another wave of cyber attacks after Estonia removed a Soviet monument in that Russian border city that we mentioned earlier, Narva. In 2023, a Chinese container vessel believed to be operating in support of Russia dragged its anchor across the Baltic connector gas pipeline and data cables running between Estonia and Finland. In that
Just for that, if someone does that, you bomb that ship into pieces. They have the balls to do something like that. You gotta bomb
same
into
year,
shit.
Russia
Dude, I'm like the Vladimir Putin of the EU. You gotta show
and
strength. You
Estonia
gotta fuck
expelled
these
each other's
people up, man.
diplomats, and since 2024, Estonia has been subject to GPS jamming that's believed to be due to Russian interference. Also in 2024, Russia declared Estonia's then Prime Minister Kaja Kallas and its State Secretary Taimar Peterkop as
Taimar Peterkop.
wanted in Russia for, quoting the Kremlin here, hostile actions against historical memory, that is to say, getting rid of Soviet monuments. This year, Estonia banned non-EU citizen residents from voting in local elections,
Strength for green
essentially
energy.
barring non-citizen ethnic.
Bomb an oil tanker though. Imagine that you have an oil tanker and then you destroy pipelines and you're like, what are you gonna do? You're gonna bomb us? Well, you should send special forces, right?
Finally, less than a month ago at the time
Look at the clown in his little military uniform,
of
bro.
writing, Russia flew 3 armed MiG-31 fighter jets
If I was the leader of Germany, like 67-year-old TommyKay, I'd be like, Vladimir Putin, I officially challenge you to an MMA fight.
through Estonia.
Just to like fuck with him, you know? Like it's not gonna happen. But you demand him a little bit, right? In his little world. It's like, wait, he's not gonna fight the German? What's going on?
Space for no fewer than 12 minutes during the current period
It
of
will totally work. It will totally work, man.
extremely heightened tensions with NATO. Just a quick pause to share
Judo black belt? Ah, dude, I will annihilate him, bro. You know how you beat a judo fighter? Let me show you how to beat judo, okay? Let me show you. This is how you beat judo. This is the video where he shows the girl how to do the throw, huh? It's always important, always very important. These guys are just throwing themselves. It's always important to show strength as an authoritarian leader, right? What's he gonna do, man? If he fights back, he's gonna die in the gulag. Dude, that's not even a real throw. Dude, sorry. That is fake. That is not a real throw. The hips aren't even there. That is not how you do that. That guy is throwing himself. What? If you know anything about martial arts, he doesn't even apply. Look, there's so much space. Look at the hips here. Look at the space. He's already flying before the feet is already there. Here we can find Tommy, though.
Hello, Mr. Putin. I'm an ordinary man from Denmark. I will fight you to the death, you motherfucker. Do you have the guts? I will meet you in the ring alone.
Shit.
Finland and Poland would, of course, put up stiff resistance, while Norwegian territory in the high north is practically empty and wouldn't send anywhere near as strong of a message. In the Baltics, Lithuania is too easily reinforced
Mr. Putin, I'm gonna fight you to the death.
by Poland and has a far smaller ethnic Russian population. Latvia is far less vulnerable from the sea than Estonia, and an attack there could give NATO time to blockade the Gulf of Finland and thus the city of St. Petersburg. If Russia is going to attempt an overt act of territorial capture against a NATO member nation, then it's going to target Estonia. At the same time, Russia will need to consider a couple of important constraints as it measures a potential course of action. Estonia is a small country with a capital city that's about a 3-hour drive from the Russian border, but it's not a particularly easy place to invade. Its eastern territory in particular is quite hilly, dotted with over 1,500 lakes and thousands upon thousands of rivers and streams, all feeding into muddy boglands that are known for swallowing even NATO standard heavy fighting vehicles. In fact, 4 American soldiers died in Lithuania's peat bogs just this year when their armored vehicles sank into the mud. That is to say, perhaps Russia could take Estonia in a single-day blitzkrieg before NATO...
Shit, I'm getting a bit stupid right now. I'm having a little laugh flash. You motherfucker, I'm gonna fight you to the death. Shit, I'm overstreamed. I'm officially overstreamed.
So, if Russia is going to focus an attack strictly on Estonia, it'll probably take a different
Vladimir Putin is like pulling a guy and he's like, whoa! He's like just throwing himself over, bro. What the
Back in
fuck?
June of this year, German foreign intelligence chief Bruno
what the
Kohl
fuck,
explained one method that Russia could leverage in Estonia, so-called little green men sent, quote, to protect supposedly oppressed Russian minorities. The phrase little green men harkens back to Russia's soft invasion of Crimea in 2014 and the Donbass region of Ukraine shortly afterward. There, Russia dispatched thousands of masked men wearing unmarked uniforms and body armor who were quite clearly soldiers from an organized military. Russia then did the same thing in the Donbass region of Donetsk and Luhansk, where little green men organized the creation of two autonomous people's republics, puppet governments that very quickly requested that they be annexed by Moscow directly.
I wonder
The
where
risk that
these
little
all
green men
now.
could show up in Estonia
Like, if
has
this
been a
still
core
life and shit, I
concern for many
wonder.
Western security analysts since 2014. Tactically, a light, unmarked invading force like this could actually be a good deal more effective than a full armored assault, potentially even using
Everyone knows, though, it's gonna be. At this point, everybody knows.
Pickup trucks to easily navigate.
It's gonna be
smaller
straight up real
roads,
Russia.
spread throughout the landscape asymmetrically and travel fast and wide enough that they can encircle and overwhelm Estonian defensive positions if Estonia puts up a fight. Remember, Estonia's active duty military is tiny and it's also very inexperienced, the sort of force that might struggle with a
That's why, man, you gotta connect with Ukraine, learn from them, talk to them, bro.
1,000 experienced Russian operators. Those Russians would also be able to leverage the same consumer-grade drone technology that's been so effective in Ukraine, and if necessary, they could engage Estonian fighters in urban battles.
Sometimes I don't know, man. France has nukes, UK, USA. Just give Estonia a nuke. One nuke. And Estonia goes, Mr. Putin, if you invade, we have a nuke. He does the same. Why can he play these games? Oh, we have nukes. Oh. I still believe, man, the greatest fucking special operation in the human race will be this. You sneak a nuke into Moscow. Somewhere in Moscow, you hide a nuke. And you're like, Mr. Putin, you want to invade Estonia. But I have the fail switch. I hit a nuke in Moscow.
In an ideal situation, little green
Holy moly, Tommy, you're going too far. Yeah, Russia is not going too far when Medvedev goes like, I will nuke you if you do anything stupid, okay?
men could move
Come
so
on,
quickly
man.
that Estonia is unable to muster much of a response and the invasion is relatively bloodless. Russia can even use a combination of little green men plus a possible large
I'm getting a little bit drunk from sleep. Where does Putin live? Like, where does he spend his nights? Novo Ogaryovo is a residence in Moscow region, located west of Moscow. It is often described as Putin's main home. Is that George Bush? Ach du Scheiße. They're all connected, guys. He mostly spends nights in the Kremlin. He mostly sleeps in the Kremlin, he says. Sochi, also his legendary palace, the large, luxurious palace. Never forget what you're fighting for, my Russian friends. Never forget what you are fighting for. Hard to pin down, though. You never know where he sleeps.
force sent to mass on Russia's own border to put Estonia and NATO in an impossible situation.
That was actually Epstein?
Now,
Shut up.
Russia can point to unmarked troops already moving across Estonia and point out that these little green men are asserting order quickly, cleanly, bloodlessly, and without destruction, and then gesture to a much larger armed force potentially
Bush, yeah,
bordering
Bush.
Estonia or the entire Baltic region and ask whether NATO wants to do this the easy way or the hard way. Remember, Russia's objective in invading Estonia wouldn't be to start a continental
Putin
war
has
with
no wife
NATO,
anymore?
but
he's
instead to prove
alone?
that NATO won't defend its own member
wife?
nations, thus clearing the way for
Hey, Putin must be having a busy head, bro. If you're like fucking this age's Hitler, man.
Russia to
Your
attack
head
other
must
NATO
be
members
spinning all the
without
time,
fear
bro.
of invade this way. And Russia can reap all the rewards of outright territorial conquest while preying on the deep unwillingness of NATO's leaders to force their people to fight and die in a continental war if it can be avoided. There's also the option for little green men, or even the full might of the Russian military, to take over part of Estonia's territory instead of the entire expanse. This would mirror a strategy that's long been favored by the Russian Federation and also by its predecessor, the Soviet Union, building and propping up autonomous zones of ethnic Russians or other groups with Russian loyalists in areas where the population is otherwise distrustful of Moscow. Ukraine got Donetsk and Luhansk People's Republics in 2014. The nation of Georgia is home to the autonomous regions of Abkhazia and South Ossetia. Moldova has the region of Transnistria. Azerbaijan hosted the breakaway Republic of Artsakh until recently. Uzbekistan has the Republic of Karakalpakstan, and Tajikistan has the Badakhshan Mountainous Autonomous Region. Estonia, meanwhile, has a region that's just perfect to play host to a brand new Russian-aligned autonomous zone or even a separatist movement. That movement would, of course, seek to protect the rights and interests of ethnic Russians and would, of course, only organize local militias for self-defense. If Russia were to try something like this, it would almost certainly be located in the eastern regions that are home to the most concentrated populations of ethnic Russians, centered on the city of Narva, which would probably become the new autonomous capital. Home to about 52,000.
I'm gonna dream of Putin. I sometimes, very, very rarely, but I have a dream about Putin, where like Putin is a villain in my dreams. I actually have dreams like that. I swear to God. Tonight is gonna be one
Narva
of these
is
nights,
Estonia's third
100%.
largest city, but less than half of its residents are Estonian citizens.
I had a dream weeks ago. I had to go to Moscow to do something there. I forgot what it was. I'm suddenly lost in the Kremlin. I'm like lost, and I hear Putin is in, and I didn't want to see him. I was like, he can't see me. He's gonna be like, who the fuck is this ginger? We gotta kill this guy. So I had to like hide from him and stuff.
While more than 1 in 3 are citizens of Russia, nearly 90% of the
K.
city's residents are ethnic Russians, and they live in a border city with direct road and rail lines to Moscow. How much territory Russia would need to secure is an open question.
I had another dream weeks ago. Months ago, I had a dream. I remember very clearly. I was a guy in a truck, and it was my job to drive supply to Ukrainians. It was night, I remember. And I'm driving, and I'm dropping the supplies, and I'm like, get the fuck out of here, right? And suddenly the base gets attacked. And I'm trying to get out, man, and I'm generally in a fucking real war all of a sudden. And I'm like fucking scared like crazy, dude.
The pocket of land around Narva, or a larger zone that includes the shores of Lake Peipus, or they could conceivably push all the way to threaten the city of Tartu toward the south.
I've been 2 meters away from Putin a few times in one day, and not gonna lie, a sense of evil presence. Why would you next to Putin? What the fuck?
All the way to the Route 5 highway, roughly half the distance between Narva and the capital city of Tallinn. Again, Russia could rely exclusively on its little green men, who would probably have a much easier time pushing Estonia's
still
small
alive, the little
army
green
toward
men?
the capital. Or if Russia wanted to, it could use road and rail networks to saturate the area immediately surrounding Narva with tanks.
I never met any famous people. Hassan walked past me. Hassan had so much security, man, like a fucking president. 24 years, I've never been close to a famous person. Wow. I guess I'm shy.
Air defense batteries and heavy artillery very quickly make it so that any fight over the city would be a costly one for the NATO alliance. In that situation, Estonia would have no choice but to request NATO intervention. But NATO would be attacking a city saturated with Russian defenses, inhabited by ethnic Russians, and guarded by Russian troops who aren't even pushing further westward. NATO
Now, who cares, man? Stop bitching, though. They took it, so we take it back. We fucking bombed that shit.
would sacrifice lives and cost.
Would you ever be starstruck? You might think this is arrogant, but I never ever am starstruck, because I have this thing, and I honestly think this made me successful in life. I'm just gonna be honest. I'm gonna be honestly telling you the truth. Every time I'm among successful people, I respect them, but I have this feeling I need to go home and start streaming. I want to not be behind them. Sometimes Lisa likes to go to concerts with me. For example, of Sam Fender, right? A big musician. And this is something I have in my brain, and I'm not shying away from it. I'm not afraid to say this. When I'm at a concert, so I see this guy doing a great show, thousands of people, whoa, whoa. But the main emotion I always have is not this, whoa, yeah. I always have this guy's crushing it right now. These people love him. And I'm just a little observer, a civilian. Tomorrow I will do a great stream and get a lot of viewers. I always like, does that make sense to anyone? You could put a very famous person in front of me. I will be very calm about it. Because I'm very arrogant in that way. And not that I'm better than them, not that. But like, you're also just a human being. You're not above me. Only people that would ever make me starstruck is Joji and Iron Robin. Why Joji? Joji, dude, to me, I have him right behind me, right there. George Miller might be the most talented person I've saw in my lifetime. Well, I'm a huge fan, man. I hope that one day they make a documentary about him and his life.
Since 2014, this potential Russian action has been discussed openly in NATO as the so-called
what that guy went through, man.
scenario, and it was even
Sanity.
explained to NATO by French President Charles de Gaulle in the 1960s, and we'll quote him here: "Would the US really risk New York for Narva?"
And that's why we Europeans have to get our fucking ass together.
Nor are Russia's options constrained to boots on the
vote.
ground assaults against Estonian
Great
territory.
vote.
Instead, Estonia could become the target for precisely the sort of air attack that Russia would seem as if it's building toward, first by swarming unmanned drones into Poland, then by flying an armed drone over Romania, and finally by dispatching combat jets in a flyover of Estonia itself. Russia has claimed that each of those incidents were merely accidental, and thus far,
Never. Not even a Russian believes that. Come on.
NATO has declined to respond punitively to Russia, as if any of them were actually intentional.
Shoot them down?
Let's be
I mean, what is the
clear,
problem?
All of them probably were. So, for Russia, the most obvious next step would be to keep escalating and see whether there's any point at which NATO would consider an airspace violation to not be an accident. Again, Estonia is a prime target. It lacks reliable air defenses, and it's situated
Not a good video for Estonian, huh? Not a good
from the
video.
most concentrated NATO air defense assets bordering western Ukraine, but it also has far less of an ability to retaliate independently against Russia than Finland does in the north. Some Estonian cities, and particularly the southern city of Tartu, are so completely within the range of Russian drones that it would be simple for Russia to launch a coordinated
So much stress and drama for fucking what? So much drama
drone assault
over
The city
one
of Tallinn
fucking
could be the
idiot.
target, sending a clear message to
Tartu is a big supplier up in
NATO
HOI4. I
about
just
what
thought the
Russia
same,
is
yeah.
willing to do, even to the alliance.
The world is getting one guide.
On the low end of the spectrum, Russia could attack with a single drone, or two, or three, and then explain that they accidentally crossed the border, perhaps because NATO is jamming their signals during a training exercise, and that it's pure coincidence that the drones in question destroyed a farmer's home or a rural bridge, or just happened to explode on the roof of the Estonian Parliament building, for example. Or, on the more intense end of the spectrum, Russia could launch a full-scale drone and missile attack, ravaging Estonian cities and military bases and daring the alliance to respond to an overt, unmistakable provocation. And no matter what option Russia chooses,
One thing I ask myself, does Russia have a lot of army left? You cannot deny that Vladimir Putin wants Ukraine finished. You can't deny that. Yet, he barely can do it. And now we're acting like there's a good enough army to fuck with Estonia and shit
take
like that?
advantage of Estonia's small size and its proximity to the Russian border to engage in massive troop buildups on Russia's own soil. Right now, Russia is believed to possess a growing force
He's
of
talking about
combat-ready
the next
troops
round of,
with arms urgently needed on Ukraine's front.
Reserve.
Lines numbering in the high tens
You're
of
telling me he's ready to walk into
Thousands
Estonia like
or
that?
even-
I think it gets serious if he calls the next round of, if he does the next conscription round. That's where it gets serious. That's where it gets...
corresponding equipment on Estonia's
serious.
border, and Russia could bring new meaning to any of the provocations we've mentioned, from an air attack to infiltration by little green men to a full-scale territorial invasion. Position those troops, make it clear that Russia can take over Estonia quickly, and it'll add a new dimension to every challenge it issues toward its NATO adversaries. Those NATO nations can intervene if they dare, but they know just as well as Putin does that by the time they can mobilize enough of an army to fight over Estonia, the entire nation will have been overrun by Russian troops.
Then why not prepare something? Why not have something ready? I don't understand it, man. The European Union has its own merch shop. Made in China.
What can Estonia do in a situation like this? What can the NATO alliance even hope to do if Russia decides to set its sights on Estonia and issue NATO its
I wish I could play Millennium Dawn right now. I'd like to play Estonia and stuff. If Millennium Dawn could work, man, that would be such a content gold mine.
ultimate test? Step one for the entire alliance is to make sure that the situation can't escalate that far.
Have you
When Russia
ever
probes
run,
with
like,
its
for
easily
training?
deniable murky
Yes.
provocations toward NATO, it's going to find out where it meets resistance. If it doesn't meet resistance, it escalates further. But if it does meet resistance, it typically backs down and
True. That's very true. We see that. Escalate a bit, see what the reaction is. If there's no reaction, go fuck a bit with that shit.
considers a change of strategy.
Steel Division will be
For
fun.
NATO, that's not a guarantee, but it is a good bet. Step one to ensuring that Russia doesn't invade Estonia would have to be bring down the 3 fighter jets that violated Estonia's airspace.
This makes me want to play Steel Division.
That didn't happen, but there will probably be other provocations that Estonia and NATO can address more forcefully. Give Moscow problems that
In fact, Steel Division is the best military simulator. It feels the realest in a
it'll
way.
have to deal with before working its way up to the possibility of invasion, and it'll take Moscow
This video is a bit fucked. Yeah, it feels a bit too doomer. Even if NATO wouldn't do shit, countries like Finland and stuff wouldn't just stand by idly and shit. Yeah.
far longer to get to that part of its plan, or in a best case scenario, NATO can convince Russia that a more overt act of aggression isn't worth the cost. From there, Estonia can also
I'm not fully buying this. Estonia will just fall and no one will help.
work to build up its
I don't
own
know.
deterrent against Russia. So
It will really undermine Article 5. And if Article 5 means nothing anymore, then we might as well just all put the head up in
similar
our
to
ass.
Taiwan and the prospect of a war against China, Estonia doesn't have a chance of defeating Russia in a head-to-head fight.
Pretty insane, huh? How we now have all this war talk. 5 to 10 years ago, I was just chilling, thinking life is going to be easy. And now we have all this war talk because of one guy.
Estonia is on track to spend over 5% of GDP on defense by 2029, a record in the NATO alliance, and its upcoming defense allocations can be funneled into a proper porcupine defense in the Taiwanese style. Already, Estonian defense officials have indicated that they would consider a first strike against Russia if an invasion seemed to be imminent. On the home front, Estonia...
The Ukrainian soldier told us that, right? It gets very serious when you see medical equipment shipped to the front line. When you see there's Russian units training at the border and medical equipment is shipped to them, that's when you know they're coming. That's a huge indication of an invasion. Medical equipment, blood bags getting moved to the front line.
More of its listed
That's when you know
reservists,
now
put an
it's
armed and
happening.
reasonably dangerous civilian behind every tree and along the banks of every river. It can organize them into local
If Russia goes through with NATO, I think a lot of Russians will be willingly join and be ready to be mobilized. I don't know much about Russian culture. I don't know if they will be like, are they that indoctrinated that they're like, yeah, let's fight the West.
protection forces and empower those small forces to react as they see fit in a time of crisis. That way, if little green men really do attack, they'll need to account for a national resistance operating unpredictably and playing by their own rules while defending their homes and families. Estonia already does have local programs that get part of the way there, training civilians to take part in
I
national
will be willing to fight NATO if they aren't even willing to fight
defense. But the
Ukraine.
nation can do more, and it's got to act fast. And NATO, as usual, can get on its fucking arse and address the problem that it can already see coming. The prospect that Russia could fully or partially invade Estonia in a challenge to the alliance has been a publicly acknowledged possibility since the 60s, before modern Russia was even Russia. The Russian economy is trembling. It can't be held together with band-aid solutions for much longer, and Vladimir Putin is getting older. Russia knows full well that if it's going to test NATO,
That's the only way he is not going to be in the middle. She is the big boss of these little fucks. Look at the little mafia here, bro. But she is the one true boss of all of them, bro.
that's got to happen soon before NATO grows more powerful and Russia loses its strength. For Estonia, that means the time is now.
The Bunker
for the
Boys.
country.
The problem is we don't have any units in Estonia. We have them in Illinois.
Guard are stationed at a military facility outside Chicago. They've been mobilized by President Trump.
They're
who
getting
repeatedly
ready.
Said that crime is out of control in the
Ukraine, Estonia, Russia, not of my concern. The true enemy lays in Illinois, Chicago. We gotta go in. We gotta get rid of the democratic wasteland, democratic trash that we have over there.